Inside a South African cave system, 30 meters below the surface, the rock narrows into a suffocatingly tight, pitch-black abyss. Down here lies the physical proof of a creature that looked like an ape, yet navigated this absolute darkness to lay its dead to rest. In 2013, cavers navigating this subterranean maze discovered a hidden chamber containing a massive scatter of over 1,500 fossilized bone fragments. This layout of skeletal remains shows the scale of the find. 15 individuals were recovered from a single, isolated room. Their skeletons reveal a biological mosaic: feet built for a modern stride, and hands with long, curved fingers designed for climbing through trees. At the top of this skeleton sits a tiny brain case. This species, named Homo naledi, possessed a brain 1/3 the size of our own, closer in capacity to a gorilla than a modern human. Despite those ancient features, this animated timeline shows that Homo naledi lived roughly 300,000 years ago. They occupied the African continent at the exact same time as the very first Homo sapiens. This chronological overlap upends the idea of a linear ape-to-man progression. It shows that creatures with primitive anatomy were capable of complex, persistent behaviors alongside our own direct ancestors. The Naledi chamber sits in total isolation, far from any hidden sinkholes or direct vertical access. To reach it from the surface, one must navigate a permanent, lightless maze. Reaching the chamber requires squeezing through an 8-inch gap in the rock, a terrain so narrow and difficult that navigating it is nearly impossible without the controlled use of fire. Geologists examined the chamber's fine-grained sediment and found no evidence of the high-energy water flows required to wash bodies inside. The bones also lacked the bite marks and trauma associated with animal predators. With floods and predators ruled out, the evidence points to a recurring behavior. Homo naledi carried their dead into this deep, protected space themselves. This is most evident in the discovery of a child nicknamed Ledi. Its skull was found resting all alone on an elevated, isolated limestone ledge, separated from the other remains. Navigating the dark to repeatedly place the dead in these specific, inaccessible chambers reveals a level of behavioral complexity that was once thought to be impossible for a creature with such a small brain. While Homo naledi occupied these subterranean sanctuaries, the world above was becoming increasingly competitive. A new, highly adaptable competitor was expanding across the continent, the first members of our own species, Homo sapiens. This comparative radar chart maps their survival strategies. Sapiens invested in a large brain with high cognitive energy costs, favoring adaptability. Naledi prioritized physical specialization and low energy consumption, retaining the climbing traits of an older era. The rapidly fluctuating climate of the Pleistocene favored the generalist. Survival depended on the ability to quickly shift diets and invent new tools as environments transformed. Homo naledi's greatest evolutionary asset, their low-energy, specialized biology, became a vulnerability. In a world newly dominated by the adaptable Homo sapiens, their niche began to disappear. Without a single catastrophic event or a violent conquest, Homo naledi quietly faded from the landscape, outcompeted by the relentless expansion of our ancestors. The deep chambers where they once gathered fell silent. For 200,000 years, these sanctuaries remained hidden, transitioning into sealed tombs. It took until 2013 for a team of underground astronauts to squeeze back through those same narrow passages and bring this lost history back to the light. When researchers like Lee Berger held the physical proof of this creature, the 300,000-year-old date proved primitive anatomy and complex culture had coexisted for millennia. This discovery replaces the straight line of human evolution with a tangled bush of branching lineages, many of them surviving far longer than the fossil record once suggested. If a creature with a brain 1/3 the size of ours felt the need to protect its dead in the dark, then humanity is defined by the bonds we form, not the size of our skulls. It forces us to wonder what other lost cousins are still waiting to be found. For more on the mysteries of our origins, subscribe and join us for the next discovery.